And one. Good evening, good evening, good evening, good evening, everybody. I am Frank Burton Jr., former alumni of Delaware State University. And tonight we present to you our very first episode of Hornet Highlight Series. This evening we have three special guests in our maiden highlight series. And they are Mr. Mark Prescott Sills, Mr. John Gregory Taylor, and Mr. Timothy Matthew Gray Sr. So you already know, I told you I'd done my homework. So what Hornet Highlight Series is it is a platform that entails a robust conversation about former DSU students who are making impact on society. This platform discusses their time at Delaware State University, and for most of them on this call, Delaware State College, where we were at, what they did after they left, and what they're currently doing. Now, this broadcast is recorded live on Zoom, and as you see it on Facebook, on my Facebook page, Frank Burton Jr., and I'm going to rebroadcast it on the Delaware State University Family 80s and 90s Facebook page. All right, so if you would, I'll start with Mr. Mark Prescott Sills. Would you briefly introduce yourself and tell us anything that you want us to know about you?
Yes, my name is Mark Prescott Sills. I'm currently the president of Delaware Afro-American Sports Hall of Fame Incorporated. I'm also the president of the Urban Youth Inc. Incorporated, and I'm currently 56 years old, and I currently live in Kenton, Delaware.
Now, awesome. Thank you, Mark. And it's you said your age, and we're all about the same age. We getting old, bro. But yeah, it's a blessing to be old. We talked about that a little bit earlier. Living down in Kenton, Delaware, and that's awesome as well. So I'm going to ask you next, JT, if you don't mind introducing yourself.
How you doing? My name's John Gregory Taylor.
You see, I told you.
I was a member of Delaware State Hornets from 82 until 85. Excuse me, 86 when I graduated. The funny thing, I have to say this. I'll never forget when I first came to Delaware State and I got my uniform and I came across the field the first day on the practice field. And majority of everybody over there, nobody really knew me. Everybody over there was looking, especially at Ace.
Ace, your boy.
Ace says to me, I'll never forget this. When I came across that field, he goes, "Who in the hell is this reject coming over here?" And I laughed at it, and I told him, I said to him after that, I said, "Ace, remember that day you called me a reject?" He goes, "I didn't know you did, man. I didn't know you could play." I said, I was always small, but I always felt like this. I'll test my skills against anybody, and I wasn't afraid to lose because the only thing it would tell me is I gotta get better. You know what I mean? Don't get mad because you got beat by that person. Use it and fuel yourself. You know?
Yes, sir.
And I'm gonna come back and play you the next day because you beat me that day. You know? Ever since I left Del State, man, I got drafted by the Niners. Won 3 Super Bowls, Super Bowl 23, 24, and 29. Once I got out of NFL, I started my own trucking business. I was hauling, funny, you'll think about this, I was hauling poultry of all things from coast to coast.
Yes.
You know, I'd bring veggies from California to back east, then I load with chickens and come back west, you know. And people always said, "Why would you do something like that, man, after playing football?" I grew up around trucking, always loved trucking. Yes. You know what I mean? It was something that I knew when I got done with football, that was something I wanted to do because it's me out on the road and just letting your mind wander type of deal. You know what I mean? Don't get in no pressure, this, that, and the other. You know, and I had my wife of, like I said, of 31 years, you know, she was behind me all the time. Right. Half the time she would ride with me every now and then. Yes, sir. You know? Yes, sir. So other than that, I just been here in sunny California enjoying this heat while you guys are joining that cold weather back there. That's right. Now, JT, what part of California are you in? I'm in it's called Clovis, but That's the little town, but big town would be Fresno. I'm
Oh.
about 6 minutes from Fresno State.
Outstanding. Well, first of all, JT, I just want to say congratulations to you and your wife for 31 years. We talked about that prior. That's an awesome feat that a lot of people are not experiencing these days. If they last 3 years, that's special. The second thing I want to mention that you said, and it's so funny, I remember the day that you came out on the field. Oh, we all do. And Timmy can attest to this. And my wife has always told me whenever I go back to homecoming, don't you know anybody's name? Everybody has nicknames. Sucker MC, Mad Dog, Big Nut, Front Seat Freddy. So one of the things was funny about JT. So JT, when he came out, JT was langy. He was real langy, tall, 6'1", 6'2", somewhere around that way. But I don't know what right guard gave him, but that uniform just didn't fit. And so we gave him the name Jed, like Jed Clampett. So they still amongst us, we call him Jed, and they'll know what it is. And it's crazy because a lot of people will associate JT with Pennsauken, and we'll talk about that in just a little bit about some of the people who come out of Pennsauken and made it to the league. But JT is originally from Salisbury, Maryland. So for him to go out and drive a truck and carry poultry, that's all it is down there. We down slower, lower. That's all you see down there. That's the poultry plants. So thank you for that, JT. Let's go to Mr. Timmy Gray, my man.
Hey, what's up?
What's going on? What's going
on? Timothy Matthew Gray. I'm originally born and raised in Delaware. Basically in Lewis, Delaware. I had a different, experience at Del State when I went there. Being a little guy, and it's supposed to be a big man's game. It was really rough trying to adjust from high school, and you never you realize that everybody that you went into Del State with, they all were some kind of superstar at the high school. And you go there and you're thinking, and it's funny because I remember seeing Ace.
Ace pops up again.
Yeah,
Ace pops up again.
And being a country boy, when you hear people say, "Oh, he's from Philadelphia," or "He's from New York," and you get the mindset like, "Man, these guys must be tough, man." But Ace will tell you, the first day we started hitting, I laid the wood to him.
Yes.
And from then he was like, "Man, I didn't know you could hit like that, man, to be so small." So, I really enjoyed being at Del State. I left Del State, being the first of my family to earn a college degree. So that was a big thing, and important. And my younger brother followed me, Tyrone, who wrestled at Del State. And but did 30 years with the state, did 27 years in the military, been a lot of places, seen a lot of things, good, some bad. And served over in Iraq for a year, an experience. And right now, like I said, I've been married 31 years, get ready to be 32 in May. I have 2 kids, get ready to turn 30 and 29. So, Frank, and guys, I've been blessed. Here's a guy, like I say, from slower Delaware, never actually thinking that I would have basically done the things that I've done. I already had a game plan because if college didn't work out, I was going into active military. So it was a blessing to be able to play a game that you love and to earn a college degree. So it was great.
Amen, Timmy, and thank you. First of all, congratulations to you and Lisa for those years that you have as well. And thank you for your service. And I say that and I mean it because while I didn't serve in the military, I served in the U.S. government, and I know the sacrifice that it takes for 22 and a half. But the funny thing about it is, man, this is what I love about the call tonight. We have so many, all of us together Cumulative. So many great stories. And I'll say one real quick, and because I'm going to get into some stuff afterwards. But Timmy, JT you weren't there yet, JT. We came in 81. And one of the funny stories is you talking about somebody coming on the field. We had, like Timmy said, you got all these guys coming from everywhere and, coming from Delaware, and I'm from Chester, Pennsylvania. Everybody's talking about all these cats. One of the dudes that sticks out in my mind that I will never, ever forget, he didn't last probably more than a day. But this dude, he left an indelible impression on me. A dude named Frankie Lipscomb. And number one, I remember because it's Frankie Frank. And so Frankie came out. He was from Newark, New Jersey. Yeah. And I never forget the first day when you got to do, JT, when you got to go out there, do that 1.5 mile run, you got to do all that testing. Frankie comes out, right? And we chatting, man. Like, so I'm with the receivers and I play receiver and defensive back. So Frankie, outside linebacker, something like that, he running with us. And so we hauling, man. We going, it's probably about 100-something degrees out there. And we go around like 2 times. And the next thing you know, we pass Frankie like twice. And so I run up next to Frankie. I said, yo, dog, man, you better run, man. You gotta pass this. Frankie said, yo, baby, I'm chilling, baby. I said, Frankie, what you mean chilling? He said, I'm pacing myself, baby. I'm pacing myself. I said, Frank, you better run or you gonna go home. Hey, JT, the next thing, you know what? That daggone crazy Greg McCarr, we called him Chicken on the baseball team because he always walked around like this. Chicken started fighting them. They started going crazy. It was crazy, man. So it was bananas. So that was a crazy one about that as well. So Mark, I'm sorry to digress, but let me come to you. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Mark.
Well, when I attended Delaware State from the second semester of 83, first I went to Morehouse College in Atlanta, Georgia. And then I got homesick and I transferred to Delaware State. So I went to Delaware State the second semester in 83 all the way to 87. And when I got out of Delaware State, I got a job with the Wilmington Housing Authority, and I became a community specialist with the Wilmington Housing Authority. I worked in the Riverside housing projects. Yes. So I worked there. Yeah. Then I worked for the state for a few years, state of Delaware, doing taxes. And then I became assistant basketball coach at Howard High School in Wilmington, Delaware. So I was there for 10 years. And that was a rewarding job. I really loved working there. And then when I got out of coaching, I decided to start my own business. And I've been president and owner of Urban Youth Incorporated since 1997.
My man.
Yeah, so it's been rewarding. I've traveled all over the world. I've met so many people through the game of basketball. And it's been just a rewarding experience. And I don't know where I would be without this business. It's given me so many opportunities, so many blessings, and I'm so blessed to continue to be able to still do it. And also, I've been president of the Delaware Afro-American Sports Hall of Fame for the past 3 years. And it's a rewarding and a blessing as well. And I'm so happy and grateful to be in the position that I am at this point. And I just want to continue on and continue to help people and to continue to recognize people, through sports.
Outstanding, Mark. And let me say this, that is one of the most unique things about you. What people don't know is I've been associated with Mark since he was a little tyke, but we probably about 4 or 5 years apart. So y'all know when y'all growing up, if you 12 and that person's 7 or 8, man, you don't bang with them. They little young boys. But when I grew up, actually my cousin Karen is Mark's sister's best friend. And so when we grew up, I heard a lot about Mark or whatever, but just to see the things that you're doing is phenomenal. Mark, let me say this. You talked about Kingswood. A lot of people don't understand Kingswood was very influential to me. When I moved here from Chester, Pennsylvania to Wilmington at 6 years old, I started playing baseball at Wilmington Optimists, and that's the only thing that I did. That's the only thing that we had because unlike a lot of these cities now that have these little league football teams, we didn't have a little league football team at that time. Within a couple of years, the very first football team was the Trojans. And that was the only team that we had in this area. So I think I was about 12 years old. I went out for the Trojans and we practiced at Riverside. So right there behind Kingswood Community Center. So that's where my football career started. And let me tell you something, we're all on this call tonight talking about where that little ball, those balls, whether it be a baseball or football, they can take you all around the world and allow you to meet a lot of different people. So we've all been blessed to be able to do that. And the last thing I want to say about your introduction, Mark, is the being president of the Delaware Afro-American Hall of Fame is awesome. That's really why we're here right now as well, because you got inducted into that Hall of Fame in 2014, and Timmy and JT are going to be inducted on April 17th, I believe, and it's going to be virtual. So that's the reason why we have this forum tonight, to really highlight you guys about what you're doing. I just have a few questions for you, and I'll ask the first question, and anybody can jump in. I want everybody to answer it because it's going to give us just a little bit more insight about what we've already talked about. So the very first question is this: what brought you to Delaware State University? What were some of the contributing factors? And tell us about some of your best memories while attending DSU. And for most of us on the call, it was Delaware State College. So again, what brought you to DSU? What were some of the contributing factors in you coming there? And tell us about some of your best memories. Anybody can go ahead and tackle it.
Well, I was oh, go ahead, JT.
No, I was good. For me, it was this. I had attended Johnson C. Smith in Charlotte, North Carolina. I attended there for a year. And what I did was I went out for the football team, but didn't get a fair shake. We had this was the funny thing about it. I could have lived with it if I would have got cut and I got a fair shake.
Right. But
how can you tell me I got a fair shake if you put me on the field for one play and that play was a running play and I'm a receiver? So that when I didn't play that year down there, so I transferred to Del State. And the reason I transferred to Del State was because it was in between two homes. I was born in Salisbury, Maryland, but I was living in New Jersey. So when I came to Del State, it was like, okay, where do I want to go home at this weekend? Do I want to go to New Jersey? Do I want to go to Virginia? So that's sort of what brought me there to Del State. But the real funny thing about it is I was a walk-on at Del State because everybody from South Jersey knew me for baseball. That was my game, was baseball. And I walked on at Del State. And once they found out that I could play, and here's the crazy thing, my parents paid for me to go to school. So once they found out that I could play, they offered me my last 3 years, but it was under conditions. And one of the conditions was I couldn't play no other sport. Wow. So I had to think about my parents paying another 20 grand or me leaving baseball alone and just sticking with football. So it was sort of an easy decision for me,
Cool. Okay.
I would say this though.
Yeah.
I don't have any regrets. What I mean? I have no regrets about it.
I know that's right. JT, tell us about some of your best memories while you're there. I'm sure some of them have to do with Ace as well. But go ahead.
I'll tell you that. I'll tell you my first memory. Once they found out that I could play, okay, I had to get cleared through the NCAA to make sure that I didn't get any financial aid from Smith, that whole deal. So I had practiced all that year. I was practicing with the team, but I wasn't playing because they couldn't let me play until they found out that I didn't get any financial aid. So I'll never forget this. We were playing Virginia Union at Del State, homecoming. Now, my first game that I traveled was, we had went to North Carolina A&T. And I'll never forget this. We were on the way to the conference room. We were going to eat, that whole deal. And back then, everybody had on, you had the sweats with your number and the top. Yeah. So here I come out walking with everybody, and I could hear guys going, who the hell is that, man? who is he? I never seen him before. Who is he? So we go to North Carolina A&T. I'm dressed. I don't get to play. Come back home. Homecoming week. Playing Virginia Union at home. And we're losing. And I always remember this because this is what got me first recognized at Del State. And that was when I first came out that day. When you first come out, you're on what they call demo squad. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where only thing they do is hold up a card in front of you, and whatever your letter is, you run whatever that line has you doing, type of deal. So I never forget, Rod Lester was the quarterback.
Yeah.
I never forget. They put me in there, and Rod Lester hit me with a slant. And I put a move on one of the DBs and ran away from him. And I heard Joe Bazicki was the coach at the time. I heard him say, now see if you remember this name. I heard him say to Walt Tillis. Remember him?
Yeah, Walter Tillis.
Yeah.
I heard him say to Walt Tillis, put him back in there. And we ran the same thing from the other side. Did the same thing. Now, homecoming comes around. I'm not playing. I'm on the sideline. We're losing. It's a few minutes left in the game, and they put me in the game. And I'm standing in the huddle with 10 other players that don't even know who the hell I am. You know what I mean? And Rod Lester comes back in the huddle, and he goes, hey, man, we got to run that slant pattern. I said, okay, works for me. Rod Lester hit me in stride. I split everybody, score. We went homecoming. That was my beginning at Dell State, right there, right? And it was so funny. Ace says to me after the game, once we scored and we won the game, I can't really say what he said, but Ace was like, "Oh man, we're gonna have some fun tonight. We're gonna have some fun tonight." You know what I mean? And to me, it was like, okay, I just caught a touchdown. We won the game. You know, this is my real first experience with being on campus. You know what I mean? That whole deal. It was different, man. I'll say this. From that day forward, I knew I wasn't leaving Dell State. The only way I was leaving Dell State if they carried me out of Dell State, type of deal. Sure. But other than that, I loved it when I came there. And at the time, I still had uncles and family members that were in the trucking industry that would come right past Delaware State, going to New York or Philadelphia, something like that. You know, so it was nothing for me every now and then to jump in there and take a ride with one of them, you know. But just, I can't explain it, man. It was just a good feeling, you know what I mean? Then that's when I got a whole lot of friends then.
That's right. And JT, you know what? That's funny because when I was there with you guys, I played both defensive back and wide receiver. So Walter Tillis was our wide receiver coach, and he ended up leaving and going and play for the Green Bay Packers. But the funny thing about it, as you mentioned the story about the slant in the first touchdown you caught, that corner was me, and not the second time, but the corner was me. So it was crazy. So I played in JT being famous.
Hey, here's the real funny thing though. See, everybody only knew me by JT.
Yes,
that's all they knew was JT, and I never forget them asking Walt Tillis what was my first name, and he didn't know. He said, I think it's Jake.
Yeah, Jake. Yep, he called you Jake. Yeah.
He started calling me Jake. I let him call me Jake for a whole year. And then one day at practice, he goes, Jake. And I looked at him, I go, why you keep calling me Jake? Isn't that your name? I said, no, my name is John. But why you been letting me call you Jake all the time? You seem like you were comfortable with it. Everybody knew me by JT, so I was fine with it.
And Coach Tillis just as country as he want to be. He's up in Connecticut. I actually talked to him last year. Just reached out to him just to see what he's doing. He's doing really good. He's back up in Connecticut. Listen, we're just a few guys just having fun, man. Just sitting around, just chewing the fat, man. And this is what it's all about. So I know, Mark, you wanted to go ahead and chime in about what brought you to DSU and what was the contributing factors in you getting there. And tell us about, like JT, tell us about some of your best memories. You're on mute. You're on mute, Mark.
You hear me now?
Yep.
Yeah, I was saying earlier, I was at Morehouse College in Atlanta, Georgia for my first year in school. And I start missing my friends because all my friends went to Delaware State. Me being from Wilmington, growing up in Wilmington and being from Delaware, you know, mostly all my friends went there. So I decided to transfer. And it was the best move I made because I got to be closer to home, got to see my family, and got to be around my friends. And Delaware State was a great, great move for me because I just loved the people. It was like a family atmosphere. It was like just like being with your brothers or your sisters, and everybody got along, and everybody, you know, had fun with each other, and everybody enjoyed each other. And I just loved the campus. It was just so laid back, and I was just comfortable, you know, being on the campus. And I was very, very happy, you know, with my decision to come to Delaware State. And my fondest memories were the homecomings. I love the homecomings. I mean, we had yeah, and I love going into the student center. I love hanging out at the student center, you know, seeing people and meeting people and enjoying each other's company. And I especially enjoy watching JT play.
Yes,
JT was the football player I ever saw play live and in person I ever seen in my life. I never seen anybody live and in person like JT. I was like, wow, this guy is like for real. And I just remember that. And I remember how the professors and faculty treated us. They treated us like we were their children, and they cared about us, and they showed interest in us, and they nurtured us. And I never forget how, you know, they showed so much concern for us. And those are the things I remember most about Delaware State. And Delaware State has been, you know, very good to me over the years. Even out of school now, I still have a great connection with the school.
Outstanding, Mark. And one of the things I'm starting to hear a thread between you and JT, and I know Timmy's going to go next, but I'm starting to hear a thread, a couple things. One thread is that it's no place like home. Both of you guys wanted to be closer to home. And I have two sons who played college Division I ball. Both of them had scholarships far out, but both of them are back home as well. It's something about being at home. And then the second thing that you mentioned, and most people need to understand this, and everybody talks about it, it's getting a lot of airtime right now, about being at a HBCU, or back then we called it HSBC. And I'm telling you, and I said it a couple of weeks ago when I was interviewing Coach Collett, there's no place like a HBCU. I'm telling y'all, you're not a number. People know your name. The professors know your name. The people know your name, and you get that individual love. And one of the best things that I loved about going to a HBCU is we're going to have to deal with the world after we get out there anyway. So why not go to a place for 4 years where you can just be comfortable and you can just be laid back, and whatever you do, band, sports, academics, just excel, because you got the rest of your life to deal with this world. So I thank God for our HBCUs. So Timmy, hop right on in, man. Tell us what brought you to DSU, what were some of the contributing factors, and then tell us some of your most fond memories.
Well, actually, I was one of those guys that said, at my senior year of high school, and, it's newsflash, Delaware State had just made history. And you're like, oh, shoot, who Del State beat? They got beat 105 to nothing.
Portland State, Neil Lomax.
Hey, and I was like, man, I ain't going there, man. Those guys can't play no ball, man. So, I was getting scholarship offers and stuff like that, but my mindset was, for me personally, I was like, I'm not really ready for college. I think I need to go in the military, and basically grow a little bit. And then, I'm gonna go to college. So, Coach Collett and his wisdom, hey, Timmy Gray, what you gonna do, son? I'm like, oh,
that sounds just like
look,
you.
I don't know, man. He said, hey. He said, let me tell you something, son. He said, you could be the first in your family to go to college. You know what that's like? And I'm like, yeah, coach, I don't think I'm ready. He's like, hell, son. You think Noah was ready when he built the ark? You know how college is, right? So I said, okay, coach, I'll go to college. But when I got there, I didn't feel comfortable, because my mindset was like, man, this is not for me. Even though Delaware is this big, I'm away from home. So, I'm like, man, I'm on my own now. I don't really know nobody. I'm seeing all these guys, the Dan Coppage and all those guys. You're like, man, don't catch from the city. It was something about the city, like, man, these guys from the city, man.
Mike Colbert.
Yeah, you like, and I tell you what, you remember when you became a freshman there, you had to wear a white t-shirt and a tie to let you know that you're a nat, as they would say. I never forget it. Me and Kevin Samuels, one day we just had the t-shirt on. We was like, man, it's too hot to wearing some tie, right? Big Calvin Mason. I'll never forget it.
Yes.
Big, dark, gold teeth, man. Man, he came down, he said, come here. Eyes all red. You don't put a tie on in the next 30 seconds, boy, we gonna put y'all in a body bag. Man, Kevin ran to our rooms, man. You put the tie on, and you like, oh my gosh. But the one, I have several memories, but one was, and I know JT remembered this. I know I remember. We was playing Southern University. I never forget it, down there in Southern. And they had this corner who's supposed to be, he was like top, he was like what? Like number 5 in the country.
Yep.
Look, JT ate him up, man.
Yes.
Ate him alive. Because they had to take Jerome Baker out and bring Mike Walker in to throw the long ball to you. I didn't know we get that. Yep. And this dude, all they're talking about, I remember we got off the bus to practice, and they was like, oh, the high school's over there. Y'all don't, that. Man, look, JT ate that boy alive, man. I was like, I said, good God almighty, they ought to stop the game now. The JT eat them up. And another thing, I remember, because Frank, I talked to you about it. I was never a Pizicki fan. He was not my dude. Yeah. And I never forget it. All practice long, we were playing South Carolina State up in Franklin Field. I'll never forget it. And all week long, we won't be intimidated. We won't be intimidated. Won't be intimidated. I remember we punted the ball, and I thought I timed it correct. Soon the ball touched his, I wiped him out. Bah!
Yes.
Got 15 yards, came to the sideline. He looked at me and said, what are you doing, Timmy Gray? What are you doing? I turned around and looked at him and said, you say not be intimidated. He just looked at me. He was like, oh, yeah, okay. And walked to the side. And I was like, man, I tell you. But, the memories that does, let's say, it was like a family. I mean, sir. You didn't do nothing to none of us, because you had to deal with all of us. And, these guys, they live in your life and your heart forever, man. Yes. Like I say, I keep emphasizing JT, but, when JT, I never forget it, when he got drafted by San Francisco, he came on campus with the Porsche.
Yes.
And, everybody's like, yeah. But people were always asking, well, you played with JT, didn't you? I said, yeah, he was on the team. How was he? I said, what you mean, how was he? Man, was he stuck up and nothing like that? I said, Jed? No, man.
Yeah, he called you Jed.
I said, Jed. I said, that's what we call him, Jed. They was like, man. I said, look, let me tell you something. No matter what status you had, or everybody just looked at you and said, hey, man, you only one practice away from getting busted up. And you know how we are. Because practice sometimes is worse than the game.
Oh, yeah.
Practicing on Mosquito Island. That's what we used to call it.
That's right. That's right.
Mosquitoes, man.
5 o'clock in the morning. 5 o'clock in the morning. Out on 13. Man.
Yeah. And I'm so blessed that I was able to attend Delaware State, because, like I said, it was a family, it was like family atmosphere, man. Everybody had fun. I mean, we supported all the other teams and stuff like that. The basketball games, man, they was something else. Now JT don't remember this, but Frank, I know you do. The first time we got there, that little tiny little gym that we had, oh my God, 40 people don't fill the gym.
That's right. And if you didn't if you didn't fit in the gym, they put you in the dance studio with the mirror.
Exactly.
So let me say this, Timmy. You brought up some great memories, and one thing that I really want to highlight is that when you say, as far as a team, and just telling my son with his team, we had that, man. We had that camaraderie. If you went down with one of us, you're gonna fight all of us. And the crazy thing about it, the litmus test of it all is that it's 40 years later, man, and we still are all in touch to some extent. Everybody is not. I'm a reacher, so I'm pretty much in touch with everybody. Everybody's not a reacher, right. But yet and still, when we homecoming, for instance, when we all get together for homecoming, it's like we never left, man.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of team. You talking about teams and supporting other teams. JT knows this. You know this, Timmy, and Mark knows it. I had the ability to play baseball as well. So just the camaraderie of all the teams is awesome. I got a few more questions for y'all. And anybody can jump in on this one real quick. Timmy, you probably could start this off because you kind of alluded to it, and maybe it is your answer. But tell us, during your time at Delaware State University, name a coach or a faculty member that was instrumental in your growth and maturity of transitioning into manhood. And as you think about that, think about, like Timmy already told us about some of the things Khaled said. Can you maybe share a special moment like Timmy did, or a phrase that this faculty member or coach said to you? Anybody could jump in. Timmy, you might want to start. Go ahead.
Miss Better.
Okay, go ahead. Tell us
Better.
Oh, that was my girl.
She was the gym teacher.
Yes.
And I remember going to her because she was like the mother for me on campus. And I remember going to her and saying, I'm like, look, I'm tired of college. I don't want to do it no more. I said, I'm not ready.
Yes.
And she was like, well, what seems to be the problem? I said, I've always kind of been like a loner, never really hung around anybody, but, and she said, look, and this is what she said to him. She said, shut your mouth. Quit being a punk. That's what she told me. Quit being a punk. Buckle up. Then she said, and I had to shake my head, she said, get a girlfriend.
Come on, Lisa.
Yeah, she said, get a girlfriend. She said, you're looking for excuses to leave? Get a girlfriend. Get a girlfriend. And I was like, she said, yeah, get a girlfriend. Quit out here doing what you're doing. Get a girlfriend, settle down, and focus on what you need to do. And George Brazier.
Yeah, Dr. Brazier, that was one of my professors.
Yeah, George Brazier, I had her for children's theater.
Yep.
And she pulled me I would go and talk to her, and she basically said the same thing. Timmy, you're looking for excuses. Go ahead, do what you're supposed to do, because they always threw that in my face. You're the first in your family.
Yes.
So, that added pressure, like, man, I know I have to get a degree because I'm the first. Then, if I do it, then my younger sibling, they might follow. And so basically George Brazier and Miss Better, they the one that really got me focused. And thank God I met my wife, Lisa.
Yes.
And that helped me. And believe me, there was many times I would go to her room and go, man, I'm gonna quit football, man. They doing me dirty. They doing me dirty, And she was like, nah, babe. She said, you don't want to do that. That's what you came here to get a degree, but football is what got you here. Stick with it, do what you got to do, and everything will fall into place. And that's what happened, man. So
Hey, Timmy. Hey, Timmy. Can I tell you one thing, Timmy? Can I tell you one thing, Timmy? The word that's college. That's my college.
Hey, you always say
that's my coach college. Yo, Timmy.
Hey, JT. Hey, no 13 go north and south. Which one you gonna be on, son?
There it is.
He was quick with that.
There it is.
Quick with that, man.
Hey, Timmy. So the word says, it's my other hat. The word says that he who finds a wife findeth a good thing and obtaineth much favor. So we thank God for Lisa. And it's crazy because we all of us are still close. It's as if we never left campus. So thank you for sharing those sentiments. Anybody else want to jump in on that one? Any coach, any faculty member? Go ahead, JT.
Well, with me, it wasn't so a faculty member. What it was for me was, and I told my daughter this, and this was one of the reasons she went to school, and that was, going to college, you're going to meet people from states and countries you'll probably never see in your life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But that's what makes it so amazing to go to school, because you're with people that you don't know. And not only that, and it's like I told her, this is where you grow up. You don't have mom and dad there to, hey, it's time to get up and go to class. You need to wash your clothes. You need to do this. You need to do that. You on your own. Mm-hmm. And with me, it was like, man, my parents were, don't get me wrong, my parents were strict parents. Yes. But you still did wrong here and there. And you were going to get in trouble for it. That was just a part of growing up. Yes. But in my mind, it was like, man, you mean to tell me I can come here for 4 years as long as I get my grades and I don't have to listen to, what time did I tell you to be in the house tonight? See? Or why didn't you do this? Or what, you know what I mean? As long as you took care of things at school, kept your grades, you were going to be there. And that was a lot of my motivation. I was always the type that wanted to be gone. You know what I mean? I never wanted to stay home. I was always on the go type deal. And that was one of the reasons I think driving truck really came to me, you know what I mean? Because I was always like to be on the road, be gone type of deal. But I want to go back to one thing that's really kind of funny. We were talking about earlier about the different things with the coaches. Mm-hmm. See if y'all remember this. Remember we played a team in Ohio called the Marauders?
Mm-hmm. Central State, right?
Central State.
Right. Yeah. Remember coming back on the bus when we hit that horse?
We hit that horse.
Yes.
I'll never forget that night, man. When Harold was the bus driver. Never forget his name. We hit that bus, man, and we hit that horse, and we all looked out there and we saw that horse. Now here we are. What was it? I forget exactly. It was over 600-700 miles from Delaware. And we're on this bus. We can't get off the bus because there was an accident. We got to wait for the police to come to take everyone out of statement. In the meantime, all the coaches got in a van and went to McDonald's, left us there on the bus. I never forget that, man. I thought to myself, I said, now this is something that all of us are going to remember. Yeah. You know what I mean? Hitting that horse.
And that was crazy, JT, because that's again, when you say Ohio, that was off of I-70. And I remember it well because my son went to school in Indiana when he first went to college to Ball State. And I remember traveling that road. It seemed like it never ended. But as a truck driver, that road as well. That special memory will always be enshrined because Coach Brzezicki wrote a book about us. And that story's in that book. So it brought back a lot of memories. So, Mark, you want to tell us? You want to share?
Oh, yeah. I would say after thinking what you said about who was the most influential person or people when you were at school, I would say for me, it was the entire campus. I was raised by the entire campus. I was nurtured by the entire campus. I was cared for by that entire campus, and I felt loved. I felt cared for. I felt loved all the years I was there. And I just never forgot that feeling that I was cared for and loved. And it stayed with me forever. And I'm connected to Delaware State forever. And I still have a great relationship with the school to this day. And I would say the entire campus was what it was when I was there. Everybody just was great to me. Del State was very great to me, very good to me.
And that's outstanding, Mark. And only you, I know you and I know your spirit now. Mark is always looking out for other people. And I mean, that's been with him since he's been a young man. So that is awesome that you mentioned the whole campus, because the old saying is that it takes a village, right? To raise a child. So that village, like Timmy said, it's funny what Timmy said, Miss Betters and Miss Brazier, that's two different people from the ends of the spectrum. You got a black teacher and a white teacher. You got Miss Better wasn't no bigger than 5'4". Miss Brazier's about 6'2". So it's the same thing. So here's the fun part as we get down near the end of this interview. I'm having a great time. I'm hoping that all of our viewers are having a good time too. Great information, great panelists. But here's the fun part of the interview is my life for many years was an investigator for the FBI. So that's what I did for 22 and a half years. So I couldn't have these guys come on without getting some dirt or some little known, I call it little known facts. So very quickly, I'm going to go over just some little known facts over these guys. That's why I wanted them to introduce themselves. And I'm going to mention some little known facts about them. And then I'm going to carry on and finish up the interview, if that's okay. So here, I'll start with Mr. Mark, because Mr. Mark is the baby of the bunch and kind of quiet and set back. So Mr. Mark Prescott Sills, one of the few little known facts about Mr. Prescott Sills. Let me preface it by saying this. When I first asked these guys to come on, anybody can go on Google and find out information, or somebody who might know them find out information. But there are things that sometimes only certain people share with them. I'll give you a perfect example. Me and Timmy talk about this all the time. So this is the precedent of this question. So me and Timmy, we graduated the same year, 1981. In Delaware, they have a game called the Blue Gold game. They have blue gold baseball, football, basketball. This is football. So blue gold, for those of you who are not in Delaware, what that entails is it's the best of the North versus the best of the South. These are the best of the best players. And so, like Timmy said, the North, slower, lower, got this reputation of these guys that are slow or whatever. The North got these old city boys, we bad or whatever. So everybody's showing their brawn. So for this first week that we're in camp, it's 2 weeks back then. For this first week we're in camp, the North is staying in the same dorm as the South, Smythe Hall at University of Delaware. And I never forget, I never told anybody, even my teammates, nobody knew this. One of the things was Timmy must have been coming from dinner one night. I was walking through Smythe Hall and I noticed that they had a piano in the lounge. And so one night I just went over to the piano. Nobody knew I could play. So not only was I playing, but the night that I was playing, Timmy was coming from dinner. I was sitting there playing Beethoven's Fifth Symphony. So Timmy's walking by, this big dude from Del State. From Brandywine, supposed to be all that. I'm sitting there playing Beethoven. Timmy walks by. You should have saw his eyes. He walks by, he stops, and he looks. And he comes and he looks, Frank. And I'm like, yo, dog, that's what I do. So and nobody knew I played the piano. So that was a funny story. So I'm going to start with Mark about some little known facts. So Mr. Mark Prescott Sills, he is a Delaware basketball standout and an awesome organizer. If you just Google him, you'll see all the things that he's done with Delaware and Delaware basketball. He's very passionate about basketball. He was enshrined, and I mentioned this already, in the Delaware Afro-American Sports Hall of Fame in 2014. This is incredible. Mark was named the 7th president of the Delaware Afro-American Sports Hall of Fame in 2019. And that's just an awesome responsibility. Service has always been part of Mark's life, and he does it well. Little known fact, Mark loves to travel to big-time college championship events, especially HBCUs. A lot of times either the MEAC or the CIAA. See, Mark, you thought I didn't know that, brother, but I do my And one of the things about Mark is that, and we've already kind of covered this, he is an outstanding event planner, and he's always trying to honor other people who serve the community. So that's huge of Mark. So I wanted to mention that. That's a little known. Those are some little known facts about Mark. I'm gonna save JT for last because I'm gonna go through Timmy. Timmy, you were actually harder to find out a lot of information, because that wife that he who finds a wife, that wife of yours didn't want to give me no information. So I had to go out and find it on my own. So with Timothy Matthew Gray Sr., Timmy, he's kind of already alluded to this, and a lot of coaches will tell you, and they've told me this. As a sophomore, Timmy was the starting nose guard on Cape Henlopen state championship team. So as a sophomore, he started as a nose guard on the state championship team. Timmy was also a sprinter on Cape Henlopen's successful track teams. He is a 2-time Delaware All-State football player, which is phenomenal. He was team captain of that game that I talked about, the Blue Gold game. He was a team captain for the Gold Squad, which is the South. One of the biggest things about Timmy that I love, and not just once you get to know him, his heart is so huge. Timmy was undersized all his life, yet and still he's very accomplished. And that's a whole nother program, Timmy, right there. We could talk about that forever. Timmy, after he played football, a lot of people don't know this, was a coach at Delaware State University and Dover High, where he took on some teams and they did very well. And one of the most compelling things about Timmy is that he was a major and he served in Iraq, which he already mentioned. So again, Timmy, thank you for your service. And finally, John Gregory Taylor. I mean, everybody knows a lot of stuff about JT. I mean, all you got to do is look on NFL films. You see him catching passes and all kind of stuff that's going on. But one of the things that JT and I talked about before we came on is, and this is incredible, JT from Pennsauken High School, New Jersey grad, he is one of 6 players to come out of that high school in the 80s to make it to the NFL. I don't know if they had a mill over there or what was going on at Pennsauken. But so the players were Darrell Wilson, 1981 defensive back, Billy Griggs, 1985, a tight end, Ivan Hicks, 1987 defensive back, Keith Taylor, which is JT's younger brother. A lot of people don't know that either. He went to University of Illinois, 1988 grad from Pennsauken High School, a defensive back in the league. Todd McNair, 1989, which was a running back, and David Griggs, 1989, which was a linebacker. And if you really do some more digging, you'll find out that Pennsauken had some guys even in the 70s that had made it to the league. So Pennsauken was thriving. I worked in Pennsauken for about 12 years, so that was just phenomenal to me. JT already mentioned this. A lot of people don't know or don't understand. Here's the other thing. A lot of times people say, all you know is my glory, but you don't know my story. So they see JT from Del State, they see all the stuff, they see him in the NFL, but they don't know his story. And one of the most compelling things that I really appreciate about JT, and he's already mentioned this, JT was an unsuccessful walk-on at J.C. Smith University in Charlotte, North Carolina, but he didn't give up. See, a lot of us give up. We throw our chips in, we go home, and it didn't work out. And then we end up being just like all those rest of those dudes on the corner, all those superstars on the corner that could have been in the pros or whatever, but he didn't give up. He came to Delaware State the next year, and you already know the rest is history. We ain't got to talk about that. That's a whole nother show too, JT. So JT already also mentioned that he's a 3-time Super Bowl champ. He played in Super Bowls 23, 24, and 29. Which he didn't mention, he's a 2-time NFL Pro Bowl selector. He was named to the NFL's All 80s Decade team. And you ready, JT? You ready for the little known fact that I had to dig? You ready? Here's a little known fact that a lot of people don't know about JT. JT loves spaghetti. He will go crazy for some spaghetti. Now, let me ask you this about spaghetti, JT. Meatballs or spaghetti or meat sauce? Which one you prefer?
Actually, I normally have predominantly just the ground beef spaghetti, but I like hot links mixed in.
There you go. There you go. We used to put kibasi in ours, but the meatballs were my favorite. When I was a kid, my mom used to make these gigantic meatballs. Yep. And you know, I've been married for like I told y'all 30 years this year. My wife does meat sauce. I'm like, baby, where the meatballs at? and the other thing that people don't know, and JT kind of already alluded to it, is JT loves chasing chickens. I ain't gonna tell you where that came from, but you care to share about that, JT?
Yeah, I mean, I'm originally born in Salisbury. All right. Well, everybody knows on the East Coast, two of the biggest poultry dealers are Purdue,
yes,
Tyson.
Yep.
I still think Townsend Chicken is still there, I believe.
Actually, they're Paramount now. Paramount.
Oh, Paramount?
Yeah, because Townsend went out of business, but it's Paramount or Allen.
Okay. Because I know they also had, what's that? Mount Air.
Mount Air is still there.
Yeah, that's it.
See, and so I grew up around it. You know what I mean? Well, and my grandparents raised chickens, pigs, so it was nothing for me. Some mornings, you know, growing up back then in them times, man, it was hard. You know, it was nothing for I used to wake up one morning, and before my grandma left to go to work, she would say, "That one right there." And what that meant was when she came back home, that chicken's supposed to be dead, boiled, feathers off, and ready to cook type of deal.
Yes, sir.
You know? Yeah. So, and I mean, once I was at Dell State, like I said, I had uncles that drove truck for Purdue and Tyson. They would come past Dell State, and I would jump in the truck with them if it wasn't football season or anything like that. I'd jump in the truck with them and ride, just to get away for a little bit and then come back. It was like to break up my monotony type of deal. Yeah. But like you said earlier, and what Mark said about as far as Dell State being like a village, to raising kids. When I first came to Dell State, there was nothing at Dell State. Yeah. And you guys were there before I was, so I can imagine what you guys dealt with. But when I first came there, the only two things across that street was Uno's,
yes,
the liquor store,
yes,
the little liquor store, and then they had that little laundromat with a little club back there.
Yep.
That was the only thing across the street. Oh yeah, and McDonald's. Other than
down
that,
the street.
Yeah, the mall wasn't there. That was all woods. US 1 wasn't even built yet.
No.
So it was like you came there and you watched Dell State grow.
Yes.
You know what I mean? You watched the state of Delaware, as far as I should say Dover, that little area. It just grew up. And now when I go through there now, it's like I'm in another world type of thing. When we were at school there, going back and forth across the street to Uno's or the liquor store, there wasn't no concrete wall up there. You know what I mean? It was one of them deals. You look both ways and you had a spray.
Just jet. Yeah. And that's awesome. As we wind down, because we've coming up on the hour, I just got a couple more questions. One of the reasons why we're here, and I selected you guys number one as the first episode, is your enshrinement to the Delaware Afro-American Sports Hall of Fame. And that's an awesome and prestigious honor. So tell me a little bit about your enshrinement into the Delaware Afro-American Sports Hall of Fame. You guys are in the class of 2020. And like I said, it'll be held on April 17th. And because of COVID, it's going to be online this year. Tell me a little bit about that, Timmy and JT, and what it means to you.
Well, for me, it's an unbelievable award. Like I said, growing up in Salisbury, being born in Salisbury, who would ever thought a dusty little kid from Salisbury would wound up where I eventually wound up? Some of the things that I wound up accomplishing and that whole deal. And just to be recognized by the African American Sports Hall of Fame of Delaware is an honor beyond honor. You know what I mean? Because I'm being selected by people that have been there before me. They paved the way for me to even be able to be nominated. You know what I mean? And that alone is no words to explain it. It's just it's a great feeling and a great honor.
Outstanding. Timmy?
Yeah, to piggyback off what JT said, I mean, I knew about the Hall of Fame, the Delaware African American Sports Hall of Fame, but my perception of Hall of Fame is like, you had to be a big time player or you had to play in the pros and stuff like that. So I guess I never really looked at it to see what kind of accolades I could get playing football. To me, I played because I loved the game. I coached it because I loved the game. I wasn't really looking for, anything like this. When I found out that I was nominated and I was selected to be enshrined, I mean, I told my wife when I got the letter, I said, "You ain't gonna believe this."
Yes.
I said, "You ain't gonna believe this." She said, "What?" I said, "I'm gonna get enshrined," And I mean, I was, telling people, I had a guy at my job, and he, his father and I played football together in high school. And, we was talking about people I knew and all that stuff. And he said, "Yo, man," he said, man, you ain't all of that. And I looked at him and I said, well, you know what, man? I said, the one thing to do, I said, a fool can always toot his own horn.
Yes.
You know, I said, but that's not me. So he said, I'm going to ask my dad about you, right? So he asked his father. He came back the next day. He said, man, if I say anything else, just smack me in the mouth. He said, hey, I'll throw my hands up, brother. He said, I didn't know you accomplished all the stuff that you did. So for me, you know, it's not just an award for me. It's an award for everybody all my teammates I played with. And to me, it's a blessing because it's like a full circle. I'm getting enshrined with a high school guy I played football with. He's getting enshrined, J Mall, and my college teammate, JT. Who could ask for anything better, man? You know, two different ends of the spectrum, high school and college. You can't knock that, man. It is, like I said, and you know, I want to thank you, Mark, for being the president, and you know, the committee believe I'm worthy enough to be enshrined. I really appreciate it.
And Timmy, that's awesome what you said. Again, what we've said before about this family. You know what I mean? You mentioned the family again, and especially like you said, Hall of Fame. A lot of people, when you think Hall of Fame, and they think you got to be in the pros and do all this kind of stuff, but most Hall of Fames really relegate around the fact about your whole body of work. And it's crazy because on this call, all of us are Hall of Famers. I got inducted to Dell State Hall of Fame for baseball and football. And, you know, people say, like you said, they'll say whatever, but it's not about me trying to be puffed up or did I do whatever. It's the whole body of work. So with that being said, Mark, tell us about your ability to be enshrined into that Hall of Fame as well. But as a president, I want you to speak to what does it mean to have these two inducted to the Hall of Fame for you? And then I'm going to ask you just a little bit more about what's the criteria for being selected in the Delaware Afro-American Sports Hall of Fame, and what are your goals? I know I ask a lot, but I'll ask you again. Tell us about you getting inducted. Tell us what it means for them to be enshrined, and then I'll ask you the other questions. You're on mute again, Mark. You're on mute, Mark. There you go.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes, I was inducted back in 2014 for basketball. I've been organizing youth basketball tournaments and leagues and clinics for the past 26 years. And I was recognized for my work with kids all over the East Coast. And I was inducted for basketball for that purpose. And also I was inducted for basketball for coaching. I was a basketball coach for many years as well. So that's how I was inducted in 2014.
Can you tell us what the criteria for being selected to the Delaware Afro-American Sports Hall of Fame is?
Well, you have to have an outstanding record in sports or administratively in sports as an athlete, coach, or player. And you have to have spent some time in Delaware as a player, coach, or athlete. And you have to be at least 40 years old, and you must retired from your coaching career, playing career, or administrative career. You have to be retired before we can even consider you for the Hall of Fame. And see, our Hall of Fame is a little different. We induct 4 people from each county each year. So we have 4 people from Newcastle County, 4 people from Sussex County, and 4 people from Kent County. And so our committees, what they do is they decide who goes in. So each candidate must get someone to nominate them, or absolutely they can nominate themselves. And so our committees are the ones who actually make the decision on who goes in each year. And we have a long list of people for each county. And our organization also gives scholarships to kids from each county. We usually give out around $12,000 per year for scholarships to help kids go to school. And we send the money straight to that school that kid is going to school for for the following year for that semester, which is in September. We send the money right to the school that they're going to be attending. So those are our main purposes: to give scholarships to kids, help kids, to get them started for college, and then to honor students and honor athletes and coaches and administrators at our banquet each year. And we've given out over $137,000 worth of scholarships since 1996.
Outstanding, Mark. And there it is again. You are always willing and looking to help others. I know my son was actually a recipient of one of those scholarships when he graduated high school. He was voted one of the most outstanding players in Newcastle County, and they sent a scholarship amount to his university where he went to Ball State. So thank you for that. Well, thank you for joining us for this very first Hornets Highlight Series episode. I greatly appreciate your time. I greatly appreciate each and every one of you tuning in. And I appreciate what all of you, Timmy and Mark and JT, what you bring to our Hornet Nation. Before I wrap this up, is there anything that I missed or anything that any of you would like to add?
Frankie, I forgot to mention one thing. You asked me what is it like to have JT and Mr. Gray in our Hall of Fame, Mr. Timothy Gray. It's a great privilege and honor to have them, because not only were they outstanding athletes and outstanding people, but they're also people I went to school with. So I know these guys on a personal level, and it's extra special because I went to school with them.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Hey, here's the other thing. He went to school with us, and he taught my daughter. That's good right there.
That is good. Timmy, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Hey man, like I said, if of course, Frank, we always communicate. But if any of you guys need me to help you with anything, man, just get in touch with me, man. If you can't get in touch with me, my wife is on Facebook. She'll definitely relay the message,
And let me tell you. Go ahead, JT.
I want to throw this out there real quick, Frank.
Go ahead,
with all the different people that might be listening and whatnot, I'm willing to let's do like a get together, like a bowling deal or something like that, where all the money goes to Del State. Yes. You know what I mean? Into the programs.
Yes.
I know there's a lot of guys that bowl. I'm a big time bowler. I know there's some guys I played in NFL with that are big time bowlers that like to bowl. Maybe we could get something together where it's just enjoy yourself. You know what I mean? Have good time, raise some money for the school, and just have fun.
I tell you what, JT, that's an awesome idea. You mentioned it earlier when we talked. I tell you what, since it is your passion, if you organize it, I'll promote it. I know how to get stuff out. I can promote it, and we can get people to come if you do that.
See what I'm kind of looking at. I'm kind of looking at similar to what would have been happening this year if it hadn't been for COVID, right. Where it's almost like a weekend deal where, say, for instance, maybe like that Friday night before homecoming, have a bowling party.
So you're looking like a homecoming deal, like you do Friday, then Saturday is the induction, then Sunday, is something else. So you're looking at
because you're gonna have because you figure you're gonna have homecoming Saturday. Yeah, you could start it off Friday, have a little bowling thing, kick people off, get it started, have a little fun, like you say, go back down memory lane, that type of deal. Right. Just enjoy ourselves. Then the next day's homecoming, enjoy homecoming. Go to the game type of deal.
Yeah.
I tell y'all what, this has been an absolute pleasure. And as we look at all the panelists on here today, I'm so glad that Monica, I'll give her credit because she asked me to do it, Monica Matthews Peel. She said, Frankie, why don't you just interview some of the guys, because you're always being in front of the camera. And I'm glad that we did that, because if you look at each and every one of us on here tonight, and I go back to this again, is we look at some overcomers. And like I said, a lot of times people look at our glory. They look at the after effect, but they don't know our stories. They don't know that JT walked on at JC Smith and didn't make it and came to Del State and starred. They don't know that Timmy was undersized. And Coach Collick even said it the Sunday that I interviewed him. Timmy had to overcome his size. They don't know that Mark just who he is the son of. That's pressure in and of itself about who you're supposed to be and what you're supposed to do. But he took that legacy and he carried it 2 times greater. A lot of times when people find out what I'm doing and find out what my career path has been, and they want to laud and applaud, but man, they don't know, like JT, they don't know that I had to 3 and 4 times I had to try out for those things to be able to get it. So I want to say to those of you who are listening before we close is whatever you're passionate about, whatever you have a desire to do, if you're not successful the first time, don't give up, y'all. Life is, listen, success, and I always say this, success, the definition of success is failure turned inside out. You're going to fail more times than you succeed. But we're sitting here talking to all these guys, incredible bodies of work in life. So I thank each and every one of y'all for coming on tonight. This wraps up the very first episode of the Hornet Highlight Series. Stay tuned for many more interesting conversations as we spotlight and catch up with other fellow Hornet alums. Be sure to connect with us on our Facebook page, Delaware State Family 80s and 90s page. A lot of great information over there. If Timmy, come on to the dark side, baby, and JT get online. How about that?
That'll work.
Also, you can always check this out again if you're not on Facebook or anything like that. It's recorded live on YouTube. All you got to do is go to YouTube, type in Frank Burton Jr., and you'll see it. And make sure that you like and subscribe. Well, that's all for this evening. It's been a pleasure again. Thank you, JT. Thank you, Timmy. And thank you, Mark. And God bless you all. Have a great evening.